Sanji in the first few chapters of Elbaf has demonstrated his new power-up, but it is something that appears in only one small panel, and can be very easily missed. Do you see it? It is the fact that Sanji is capable of doing Ifrit Chambei, while his eyebrows are normal. This is actually way more important than you might think at a first glance. After Sanji first awakened his Germa enhancements on Wano, his eyebrows have always inverted when he uses this power, but this is clearly not the case in this Elbaf scene. The way Sanji describes his own powers, his enhancements made his body stronger, and allowed it to support hotter flames, which was how he was able to upgrade Diable Chambei into Ifrit Chambei. The fact that Sanji on Elbaf is able to do Ifrit without his enhancements can only mean one thing. Sanji's normal body has gotten so strong that it can now handle much hotter flames. I understand that it is hard to tell, because the image is black and white, but Sanji is very clearly doing Ifrit Chambei in this Elbaf scene. This is because of the crackling effect on his leg. When doing the research for this video, I tried to look at as many Diable Chambei scenes that I could find in the manga, and I genuinely could not find any of them where Sanji's leg had this crackling effect, meaning that this is very clearly Ifrit. What this means is that Sanji's regular body and armament haki have gotten so strong by Elbaf that he no longer even requires the Germa exoskeleton to go Ifrit. This makes a lot of sense, as Ifrit Chambei was never a Germa power in the first place, but something Sanji himself said that he could have potentially done even before Wano, if his body had just been strong enough. The really interesting thing here, however, is that this could all hint at Sanji getting an even bigger power-up later in Elbaf. If Sanji is able to now do Ifrit without his enhancements, could he potentially conjure even hotter flames than Ifrit, if he actually activated his exoskeleton? As brought up earlier, Sanji's normal body and armament haki have by Elbaf gotten so strong that he can perform Ifrit Chambei without the need of his exoskeleton. On paper, this means that if Sanji also activated his exoskeleton, he would be able to conjure flames even hotter than this. Granted, we actually did already see Sanji using his enhancements in his first scene on Elbaf, where the Ifrit Chambei he does on the giant cat is performed with his eyebrows inverted. It could be that right now, Sanji is only able to do basic Ifrit attacks without the enhancements, but needs the exoskeleton to do named attacks. Considering how fast Sanji grows, however, it could only be a matter of time before he showcases the next level of flames he can handle with the exoskeleton, and we will likely see this in Elbaf. In real life, flames are at their hottest when they are blue. This may not necessarily mean that Sanji has reached his peak with his fire abilities, however. One Piece often takes concepts from real life, but then goes its own way with them, such as with Akainu claiming that his magma is hotter than Ace's fire, which goes against how these elements work in reality. If the story needs a visual cue for Sanji getting hotter flames, it could be that we'll see him creating fire that is neither red or blue. One interesting option could be flames that are pure white. This could actually be a pretty neat visual choice, since the color of Luffy's sun god form is also white, representing the true color of the sun. Sanji being one of Luffy's wings and having pure white flames as his ultimate ability could therefore actually be very fitting. It could also make perfect sense for Sanji to unlock this ability in Elbaf of all arcs. Elbaf is where One Piece's sun god Nika originates from, and the question of who is the real sun god has already been set up to play a big role in this arc. Another important theme in the Elbaf arc could also end up being fire itself. When meeting Luffy, Loki said that he plans to bring about the end of the world. This is likely a reference to Ragnarok, the end of the world in Norse mythology, where one event that is described is the fire giant Surtur engulfing the world in fire. What inspiration the manga is going to take from Norse mythology still remains to be seen, but it could still be that fire will play a key role in the arc. If nothing else, Surtur Chambei could be a cool thematic name for Sanji's next power-up. There's certainly also other paths the story could take with Sanji's powers than just different color flames. It could for example be possible that Sanji would be able to conduct electricity through his leg, which he arguably is already kind of doing with Ifrit Chanbei. This would actually line up pretty well with his Germa enhancements, where Nichi, Sanji's brother, is able to produce electricity from his body. Nichi is also able to do this even without his raid suit, hinting that this is a purely genetic ability. Sanji mastering electricity could be a pretty good addition to his arsenal, as elemental powers can be very beneficial in One Piece. For example, electricity would give Sanji the upper hand against any enemy fishmen the crew might still encounter. Sanji has also had plenty of personal experience with fighters who use electricity, so he's likely well aware of how useful it is in combat. One thing to note is that even though it's been almost 20 years since they were introduced to the story, we still do not really have an explanation on Sanji's flames. In fact, Sanji himself does not understand it either. When Queen questions Sanji about how he is able to produce flames, Sanji's only explanation is that they are the flames of his passion, which Queen thinks is a laughable reason. Because Sanji's lineage is still a mystery, his potential powers are pretty limitless. This is because the lineage factor, One Piece's version of DNA, can theoretically be manipulated to a point where it can grant the person any special ability seen in the story. Sanji's lineage factor could in theory be based on Lunarians, or if you want to go even more wild, one of the fantastical animals of the One Piece world. We for example already know that dragons did genuinely exist in the world once upon a time, which could hint that many of the mythical Zoans were once creatures that actually inhabited the planet. Personally though, no matter how Sanji is going to evolve in the future, I hope his fighting style doesn't stray too far from where it is now. This is because Sanji's fighting style already fits his story so well. The man who originally taught Sanji how to fight is Zeff, and even though he didn't teach them to him, Zeff's influence can still be seen in Sanji's fire abilities. When Sanji first used Diable Jambe on Jabra back in NES lobby, he relates it to cooking, saying that God creates food, while the devil creates spices. Like many of Sanji's fighting techniques, this relates to him being a cook. Even something like the evolution of Diable Jambe to Ifrit Jambe can be compared to something like the kitchen stove, where the flame is blue when it is at its hottest. Heat control is also often said to be one of the most important skills to have when making food. Chefs are also sometimes popularly compared to hell and demons, because of how demanding the environment of a professional kitchen can be. This all pretty much describes Sanji to a T. As far back as his first fight in the story, Sanji has made it clear that a cook should not be afraid of fire. He refers to his flame abilities as being literally demonic, and Ifrit itself is the name of a demon that appears in the Quran. Sanji also often compares his fights to preparing food, and this can also be seen in him essentially cooking his opponents with some of his attacks. While we nor Sanji himself do not know what the reason behind his fire is, it seems pretty clear that Sanji bases his abilities on his time working under Zeff, which makes perfect sense, as Parati is literally the restaurant of the fighting cooks. The reason why Sanji originally joined Luffy is because he wants to fulfill both his and Zeff's dream, so at least to me, it would be cool if he completed his journey, mainly relying on the skills Zeff taught him. I realize that Sanji is not the first character who probably comes to people's minds when they think about who on the crew will get focus in Elbaf. I however think he has a lot of potential in the arc, and I think the arc could actually be really important for several Straw Hats, not just Usopp. If you're interested, you can click here to watch my other video on why, even more so than Sanji, Elbaf could be a really important arc for Zoro. As always, thanks a lot for watching this video to the end.